Hi, thanks for joining us again on Reimagining Digital Events. This episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the attendee versus the vendor. As a vendor, my perspective is I'm trying to drive further engagement with either prospects and move them along in the pipeline. I'm trying to further strengthen relationships with existing customers. I oftentimes use events as a launch platform to get new announcements out into the marketplace, sometimes to inform analysts and press and others. So there's lots of different motivations behind events. And so when we put these in digital format, we have to think a little bit different because we don't have a captive audience in a big room anymore. So we want to make sure that our content is focused on delivering to each of those individual objectives, but we got to slice it up into some smaller pieces. So that's the sort of vendor perspective. But as an attendee, what do you think, Christoph? What are you looking for as an attendee?
An attendee will come, typically an IT professional. Number one, they want to meet the vendor they've spent money on. They want to know more about the products and solutions the vendor offers, and maybe they want to get educated if it's going to be one of these conferences that focuses on one specific vendor. And if it's a broader show, it's really to discover a bunch of new solutions because there's a new problem to solve and do a mini market study or survey. The other thing is social. Obviously, you are there to interact with vendors, to maybe influence the features, give them feedback directly, talk to their executives directly, and of course, meet with your peers. Who has done what and how? What are the best practices that I should be implementing in my own environment? So this is really what it's all about.
Yeah, I want to comment on what both of you said, because obviously you're correct from the stakeholder perspective. Let me use an analogy here, because you really want to focus on what impression you want to leave on those various stakeholders, for want of a better word. In all our jobs, we view so much PowerPoint. And very often I'm saying to people as they're developing PowerPoint and I'm critiquing it, you get to the end of the most in-depth, small font, multiple slide presentation, and you say, so what? And someone can answer that so what usually in one sentence. Think exactly that way as you put the event together. What is the so what? From the vendor perspective, from the attendee perspective, maybe from the channel attendee perspective. If you think about those so whats and really hit those, it's about keeping to the headlines and not trying to fill a whole day's worth of cable news.
Great point, Mark. So remember, you have multiple audiences attending your event. Be sure that you have content and messages for each of those audience, and you're really delivering for each. It's too easy to blend it all together and then end up with the lowest common denominator and not really satisfy anyone. Focus on your attendee, remember what your objectives are, but don't forget what theirs are. Thanks again for joining us. Hope to see you in the next episode.